Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Hightop Sports. I mean, to keep it short and simple, we're back. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it feels good. Feels good. Scrimmage one is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot to go over. Offensive line, defense has a standout day. DJ Lagway, Graham Mertz, some recruiting news. It's going to be a good one, so relax. Smash the like button and subscribe. Let's dive right into it, boys and girls. So, as we all know, there was a scrimmage yesterday. We didn't have any footage from that scrimmage. Media was not allowed in. As we knew that from Wednesday, we had Cam Parker on. I think some media people were allowed in for a little bit, because obviously we did get some takeaways, and then obviously there was a presser after the fact where Billy alluded to a few things. First order of business, let's get right into it. Offensive line, okay? And we got to see kind of the first rep. There is a ton of injuries still. Severity of these injuries aren't really that crazy outside of the Miles Graham back injury, and Andy Jean, I think, has a little bit of a hammy, but nothing too crazy. Austin Barber still recovering, Jack Pyburn, Shamar James, etc., right? So, offensive line and the wide receiver room, as they had it in 1, 2, 3, was Khalil Jack, which we expected, Shamir DK, the transfer from Wisconsin, which we'll get into him in just a moment, and then, of course, Eugene Wilson. But we talked about it with Cam Parker on Wednesday. That wide receiver room is so diverse that although these may be the starter, and they'll be the starter on the depth chart for maybe a good foreseeable future on into the season, that doesn't really mean too much. But look, honestly, I'm okay with those three guys. Khalil Jackson was a star up and coming last year. I think is going to make it be a huge asset. Again, not the big shiny name like the Abrams and the Tanks and the Mizels and the Jeans. I understand that. Khalil Jackson was a walk-on, legacy player, but the kid's balling, and I love it. Eugene Wilson, we know we want him on the field, so we're cool with that. And I've been saying this since the beginning, and there was a lot of talk from this Saturday that the connection still seems to be there with DK. Is he's the Ricky Pearsall for this year? Is he going to be Ricky like Ricky? No, and I don't know. He could be, but I'm not saying that. Outside the fact that he's going to be that cushion, that security blanket, even more so than Ricky was, right? Because he only had 1 year with Ricky. I think he had 3 years with DK and only a year off. So big time stuff. I love this connection here. I think it's going to be huge for Graham Mertz and just his production this season, especially if we can get this offensive line up and running, which the offensive line, we kind of got an idea of what the line's going to look like. We've already been hearing about it, but with Austin Barber out, it had Manuel, the transfer from Arkansas, then Najee Harris in that guard position, which we all talked about this season, backed up by Christian Williams. Remember that name. It's been a name that I've been kind of knocking the head on a little bit this offseason. I keep bringing it up. Big-time stud. Kid's absolutely massive. Didn't see a lot of time on the football field, but we're going to really see the development this year, and that Rob Sale offensive line program is going to transcend into what we want it to be, and Christian Williams is one of those guys. Then they have Jake Slaughter, backed by Big Rod. Then, of course, Damian George and Brandon Crenshaw. So a good majority of the line, and the line held up. He said the line did pretty well, and it's not at its full strength currently, right? Because we know Austin Barber's out. Bryce Lovett also was a nice bright spot, they said as well. So a lot of great things there in regards to the offensive line. Again, this is something that I talked about on our call-in show, where on paper, I'm a little more excited for the offensive line. I understand you got to play games. I understand it doesn't matter until you get to August. If you're going to sit there and make a comment, just delete it now. I can see you typing it already. It's not August, all right? It's March. We're going to talk about March, damn near April, all right? I digress. So, love where the line and the news of the line is headed. There's a couple breakout runs, which we'll get into in just a moment. Treyon Webb had a touchdown run, was called back for a holding. Kanan Daniels had a big-time run. We talked about this on our Wednesday show, and some people asked about it on Friday. How do we foresee this running back room being? Montrell Johnson had the bulk of the carries, which we thought about. Coach Jabbar also said that he feels that he could be one of the best running backs to come out of Florida. That was a comment from him, which I think we can all agree with just his experience and how long he's been here. I think we're all going to have a nice little love and appreciation for Montrell at the end of this season, especially if it goes the way that we expect it to go. So Montrell had the bulk of the carries, and what I said, look, I think it's going to go Montrell, Treyon, and then kind of just be an open book. But I think that second spot, respectively, I think Treyon has put on a ton of weight and is going to be an absolute beast. But I think these running backs coming in are just that great too. Also, why I said not to be too concerned with the Trevor Etienne, because dime a dozen. Not a shot. It's just the way of the position nowadays. Look, Trevor Etienne is a phenomenal football player. Would love to still have him on the team, but it's not detrimental to the team. And I think we'll see that more than likely come April 13th, and we see the running back room take off a little bit. So offensively, things look good. All the quarterbacks, the transfer, Chase Millen, I believe is his name, DJ Lagway, and Mertz all threw an interception, Okay. Big one here. Josiah Davis, 3-star safety. I remember he committed. I remember when he committed because I was in Gainesville, Florida. My nephew came on during his commitment. I believe this is who it was. Kind of came out of nowhere. Not the splashiest pickup, but making some splashes early on by picking off the starting quarterback for the team. Devin Moore picked off DJ Lagway, and then a walk-on Tyreek Norwood picked off Chase Millen, who was an edge back, stepped back into coverage and picked it off, and both sides erupted. Billy had a whole spiel about this particular moment because he was a walk-on. He's a 6-year senior, graduate student, construction management. He had a whole spiel of like why the walk-on program is so important. So love that story. Great little feel-good story for the team, and just love hearing the energy surrounding that. The defense, like I just mentioned to you, 3 interceptions, had themselves a day, apparently. The tackling was something to be spoke about. People were fired up about how great the tackling was, which we all know how atrocious that was last year. We've been seeing the tackling drills for the last 6-7 practices, so it's great to see it translate onto the football field, given it was pads on Saturday as well. So, look, I know it's early. I know it's talking season, but there just seems to be a little more buzz. The buzz, I feel like, because the beat writers have had a little bit of preservation when writing. They've been a little more reserved, right? But they feel a little more kind of, the wheels are coming off a little bit. The buzz is there more than it has been in the past. And I just think that speaks to the things clicking and lining up with the Florida football. So all in all, love hearing all those things. Let me make sure I don't have any other kind of highlights that we need to talk about. Again, Pup Howard. The standouts on defense were Pup Howard. He had a great day. Again, we know that we've got Derek Wingo and Shamar James out, and Miles Graham out, and Aaron Childs isn't there. So it's the Pup show right now, which I love. I love that he's getting a lot of this rep and all that good stuff. So Shamir Dyke, I think, had like a 40-yard touchdown pass I heard or read somewhere from Graham. Love hearing a nice long ball. Now, was it a long ball? Was it a dump off? We don't know. Just love hearing a nice connection between the boys from with the Wisconsin area, locking and loading. Now, DJ Lagway. Let's talk about DJ Lagway here for a minute. Reports coming out. He had a rough week, and it carried over on a Saturday. I've got a quote here from the presser that I love. Big analogy guy. If you guys watch the show, you know I'm a slut for a good analogy, and Billy nailed it on the head with this one. And I love this analogy because I can relate to it so much because I play the game and I have the mindset probably like DJ does. Had a rough week, like I said. And this is what Billy said to him. He says, look, his game management piece. I actually asked him on the field today, did you play poker growing up? Did you actually play cards growing up? If you play Texas Hold'em and you get a 3 and a 4, you fold your cards and you go to the next hand. He obviously didn't play poker growing up, but sometimes you get dealt a bad hand and you got to learn how to play the next hand. Play the next play, managing the situation, thinking of your decision. I love this because this is in life. This applies to everything, especially in golf, which is obviously my sport, where it's very easy to just sometimes I always think you just take your medicine. We always want to be the hero, right? You hit it in the woods like I'm Tiger Woods. I'm going to cut it around this tree, land it at 10 feet, drain it. Look, ESPN's is there. No one's going to care, and the chances you hit that are none. Take your medicine, poke it out, right? Take your stroke, but don't ruin the round. Don't kill your day because it's very easily trying to go for it. You hit in the water. Now you're 2 in, 3 out. You're dropping. All of a sudden, a potential double turns into a triple bogey. Now you're in your head. Now that carries over. You see what I'm saying? It's a snowball effect. Playing poker is the exact same way. I get myself caught up into this. You kind of get a sleet of bad hands, and you feel like I've got to make something happen. So you roll in with a 3 and 4 like you got pair aces, right? You start just forcing things to happen when it's not there. What does that tell you? As I've gotten more mature in golf, I've started to learn to take my medicine. Now, I don't have to hit driver off every tee, Sheldon. Just poke a little foreign out there, big guy, right? That is the maturity of the game. That takes time. Love that we're having a bad week. Love that we're having a bad week, honestly, because we've been hearing about how great he is and the fantastic, which I love too. I love these things, but you got to get knocked in the mouth, and it's sooner rather than later. And by hearing the other great things of how he retains things, how he applies things, I think it's going to be just okay. And again, I'm glad it's happening now, where it's early in spring, and hopefully he can adapt and take it all in and go, okay, let's adjust, let's realign, and let's rock and roll. These are things when people are going, hey, we need DJ Lagway to come in rocking and rolling. This is why he needs to start. These are these things. this is my exact point right here. It's the mindset. He has the ability, he has the skill, he has the arm strength, he has all the physical attributes that you need to be a top tier quarterback. But up here is that just takes time naturally. Some people are further along than others, and I believe that he is that as well. But that's just the name of the game. Takes a minute to learn to not get so caught up in a bad mistake. So, seems weird. Like, Sean, you want to have a bad week? No, I don't want to have a bad week. But I like when we have a little adversity. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for learning. And that's what I believe we had here. So, and I love it. Hey, shout out to Billy for a great analogy, Billy. I appreciate it. I understood it. Growing up in Texas, little disheartening that he didn't play Texas Hold'em. I will say that. All right, so obviously we'll have some another scrimmage, and then we'll have the spring game coming up. So we'll get some more thoughts on this. Excited now to hear kind of the bounce back for next week for DJ Lagway, how the next week rolls out, given that it was technically a quote-unquote bad week from him. So we'll see. But also, too, while all this was going on, while we had this massive weekend of practices and all this great news coming out of scrimmage, we had a big recruiting weekend. We had a massive, low-key recruiting weekend. And again, the recruiting buzz has definitely changed a little bit given the circumstances of the transfer portal, but it's still an important factor. Still going to be a base. You still got to pay attention to it. We all know Peyton Joseph, 4-star offensive lineman, is the teammate of Antoine Hill, 4-star quarterback, and teammate of 4-star defensive edge Isaiah Gibson, who recently committed to USC. Why is that important? Well, Isaiah Gibson was there this weekend. Peyton Joseph was there this weekend. And what's this other young man's name? Tavares Dice, who's currently committed to Auburn. He is not teammates with Peyton Joseph, but Antoine Hill was not there this weekend, but he has been to Florida a lot. He may have been this weekend. I can't remember. It was a great weekend for visits. Solomon Thomas, another big offensive tackle, was there this weekend. He stands at a whopping 6'4", 315. He is the number one, according to On3, inside offensive lineman in the country. In the country, ladies and gentlemen. Why is that important? Why, Sheldon? Why emphasize Solomon Thomas, who's currently committed to FSU? I'm fired up, baby, because Peyton Joseph said, if I had to pick out of all these guys, Tavares Dice, Antoine Hill, who he's teammates with, Isaiah Gibson, who he's teammates with, and Solomon Thomas, where do you feel best at, Peyton Joseph? In the article from Corey Bender, they go, Peyton, how you feeling? You were there this weekend, and Peyton also said, I'm doubling down. I'm loving where I'm at. I love this place. This is home. I'm digging it. I'm rocking and rolling. He goes, who you feeling good about? He goes, Solomon Thomas, excuse me? The number one inside offensive lineman, just clarifying, you said something. He said, Solomon Thomas, okay, I'm listening, 6'4", 315, and that's right, 6'6", 275, the number 22nd offensive tackle in the country, Tavares Dice. That's who he feels the best about right now. Antoine Hill and Isaiah Gibson, they go to school with him. So we're feeling good about those two. The other two may not feel good right now, but he's going to be seeing them every single day. He's going to be recruiting them every single day. Now, we have learned here, boys and girls. We don't double down. We don't buy in. We don't split them. We don't do none of that stuff, okay? When it comes, if we're taking a bet on a teammate coming in because their teammate committed here. We have learned. But come June, we're flowing again. Jubilee weekend's hitting hard and heavy. I might say some lies. I'm just letting you know, I may forget everything that I just said. That's usually how this thing works. But as of now, I'm stable. I've got a good head on my shoulders. I still remember the burn that we've had from the last 2 years. And Zay Mincy, the year before that, was somebody else. I don't remember anymore because I try to forget the pain that I've endured. And just like I forgot the other pain, I'll probably forget last year's pain very quickly. So, with that being said, right now, we're not splitting aces. We're not doubling down, okay? For now. I love it. This clip here, this film that we're watching here is of Tavares Dice again. He's 6'6", 275 out of Fairburn, Georgia. All these young men were there this weekend. Solomon Thomas, I believe he was on an official visit. Been hearing a lot of great things on him. Again, he committed to FSU not too long ago. FSU has been heavy on him. He is out of Jacksonville, Florida, I believe. So very close. Yes, Jacksonville, Florida. So we'll see how all that plays out with all those guys. Antoine Hill is another big one. For the quarterback situation in 2025, it's very light. There isn't at a top 10 quarterbacks. I don't believe there's too many more. Antoine Hill is kind of fighting for, I believe, out of that spots for the top quarterbacks. He's right at number 10. He's right at number 10 on 3, number 8 at 247. So those top 10 quarterbacks are all kind of scooped up right now. In Florida, wow, I just took a look at this. North Carolina led the way for a very long time. He was committed to Colorado about a year ago. That ship has seemed to have sailed. Florida leads the way currently on 3. Just now seeing this, followed by Georgia. He is from Georgia, Warner Robins, Georgia. Warner Robins pumps out studs, by the way. Then Alabama, then Tennessee. So in great company there with quarterback play. We know Tennessee already landed McIntyre, so they already have their quarterback, which we should feel good about. The Alabama situation with Nick Saban gone kind of puts a little, changes things. But Georgia does not have a 2025 quarterback as well either. They're heavily pursuing Julian Lewis, who's currently committed to USC. So you've got to think Georgia is going to play a big factor into this, given that they're shopping around still for their quarterback as well. Again, the quarterback situation is pretty tight. So this one's going to come down to the wire here as things start to heat up. Now, I know guys can flip, but quarterbacks outside of Dylan Raiola, because he's soft, typically try to stay home with their class because they try to build their class around them. So I'd imagine we should see a commit here hopefully soon with maybe one of these commits. I mean, if any of these guys commit, Solomon Thomas, Tavarius Dice, Isaiah Gibson, who also committed to USC, but he visited this weekend, had a great time. Very close to home to him. Again, these guys that committed to USC this past weekend, Hilton Stubbs, Isaiah Gibson, and then the other young man, the defensive lineman who flipped from Georgia, all 3 of those guys, everyone came out immediately and was like, yeah, these things aren't going to stick. They were very unorthodox the way that it all rolled out. Had no rhyme or reason to it. I'm not saying that they're not all going to stick. Just didn't make any sense. And that's all I'm just going to leave it at that. So USC, who hasn't recruited well, all of a sudden came out swinging, realized that they have some money. I don't know. We'll see. We know Florida and their recruiting budget has increased a little bit, and it seems to have shown just given the noise around certain top-tier talent that we've been looking at. So it's weird. We lose Darnell Stapleton, and the offensive lineman recruiting all of a sudden just takes an absolute jump. I don't know what's happening here, but look, I will say that I'm here for it, and I'm loving every minute of it. So all in all, great weekend for the Florida Gators. Great stuff from coming out of the scrimmage. Had some great takeaways, great feedbacks, especially defensively. That has to excite us. The secondary got a ton of praise. Tackling, just something as simple as that, had everyone fired up. Love hearing Devin Moore. Again, somebody who and even Billy said, is like, look, we've kind of dealt with injuries for the last couple of years. So great to see that he's in full capacity. Think about it, Devin Moore, Jason Marshall, right? Josiah Davis, all these young guys that we had last year. Aaron Gates dealt with an injury, who's now going to be playing cornerback, switch from safety to cornerback. So that cornerback room is kind of, in my opinion, like the linebacker room. Has seniority, has some quality, has a ton of quantity that could translate into some phenomenal quality. Just all comes down to development. All comes down to coaching and how we utilize the players and put them into the right position. So all those things are going to be something to keep an eye on over the next few weeks, and then heading in, obviously, into that spring game. I don't know what I'm going to watch for in the spring game. It's just going to be so many things that we want to see happen. Wide receiver play, offensive line play, DJ Lagway, right? Cornerback play, Isaiah Turner. There's so much to watch. Probably have to watch the game 4 or 5 times to really get a good grasp of what's happening here, but I'm okay with that. I love it. I'm digging it. I'm excited about it. Great scrimmage 1. Love you boys to death. Be sure to smash the like button, subscribe. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling, your thoughts and perceptions and perspectives on everything that's happening right now. We'll see you boys in the next one. Happy Easter. Peace and love, baby.